Welcome to One Tough Podcast. I'm joined here, like always, by Carlo.
Happy
Today,
Thursday.
we're pleased to... Happy what?
Happy Thursday.
I thought you said happy birthday.
Oh, happy Thursday.
Okay. We're pleased to have with us a guy that I met a little while ago. He's an entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author. He's a podcaster. And James Altucher. How do you pronounce your name?
It's like I'll touch her fast. Altucher.
Altucher.
Altucher. I'll touch her fast.
Well, Deedle could be Deidle too, my name. And I really appreciate it. I know you got your own big podcast. We've been picking up with this. We had a lot of exciting guests in the last few weeks. And I'm excited about talking to you because I learned a little bit about you. I met you, and then all of a sudden I started doing my little due diligence. You're one quite interesting guy.
Well, Bo, I've been following your career for probably over 20 years, so I'm happy you think I'm interesting. I have questions for you.
Well, you got all these companies you found, and then you wrote 20 books. When did you have time to do all this?
You write every day. Let's say you write 1,000 words a day. At the end of the year, that's 365,000 words. That's the equivalent of 6 books a year. So you just pull one of them out. You can publish a book a year.
Well, you must have a lot of time on your hand.
I enjoy, I'm sure you feel the same way. If you enjoy everything you do, it's not that you have a lot of time on your hand, is that you have all the time in the world if you enjoy everything you do.
Now, you went to college. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Cornell. I hate to be reminded of that. I don't really believe that college is a great source of education. I think it's actually just a way for parents and kids to go bankrupt while their kids party all the time and learn nothing. And then they get out of college, and that's when the real education begins. First, unlearning everything they learned in college, and then learning that the real world is 180 degrees different.
Well, I learned one thing is I was not able to go to college. I started working as construction when I got out of high school, and then I became a cop and all that. I always wanted to go to like a college, but become a gym teacher, but I couldn't afford it at that time. But then when people asked me about my education, I said, well, I do have a doctorate of the streets of reality. And a lot of times, people come into play with all their book knowledge, their masters, their PhDs and all that. But common sense, they lack a lot of actuality of life. To me, you got to weigh everything out. Everything is not cut and dry. You have to look at things, different sides of it. That's one of the things I've learned in life, I guess. Cornell for computer science. Why the hell didn't you get into computer security, one of the largest fields in the world as far as most profitable? Develop a little software, can knock it down and make billions of dollars, no?
Well, I did. I started my first company in the mid-'90s. No companies had websites then, so I would go into like AmericanExpress.com or Con Edison or Sony or BMG, whatever.
You were buying up the domains?
No, I would build their websites. I built the first website for AmericanExpress.com, HBO.com, TimeWarner.com, site after site. So I did go into the business that way. Then, and now I'm invested in some security companies, and I'm fascinated by it. I know the technology, but so I don't like to actually run a business. I just like to be invested now. I'm bad at running businesses.
Going back to the 1990s, I used to I still do, go up to Rayo's, and I was doing pretty well then. I had a fish oil company. I had a technology company called SoftWorks. We sold for $200 million, and I had a lot of money, but I was like a guy with a lot of money that didn't know what I was doing. So I used to be at the bar up there with Nicky, the bartender up in Rayo's, and a guy would come on, hey, Bo, I got a great stock for you. It's only $1 a share. So I'd call my broker. I'd say, buy 200,000 shares tomorrow, this, that. He goes, Bo, there's no float. I said, I don't care about float. Just buy this stuff. And I was probably one of the victims of the .com.
You and me both. I mean, here I was. I made money from the .com thing. I knew better. I cashed out, all cash. And then I figured, I'm such a genius now. I might as well invest all this in what I know. And then boom, everything collapsed.
I figured this way. You invested the 4 companies. And if one of them pops, the multiples would be so enormous that I'd be a genius. And that was one of the things that I did. And I lost probably very conservative $10 million over the period of time in the 1990s with these foolish investments, because everyone was looking for that golden ring that was going to go and catapult up. And then, like I said,
The unicorn.
Yeah, we sold a company called Softworks for $200 million. My partner Danny and I, and we had $60 million in a little fund. And I go to Ken Langone and Kenny Langone. I said, Kenny, help me invest this. He goes, Bo, you're going to end up losing that. Yeah, we did lose it. I invested into a company called the Wolf, called the Wolf Box. It was a 3-tier firewall company. Cobalt had just been sold for $2 billion. This technology was better, but it was after the fact. And NetWolves was the name of the company. And we invested money there. Then I invested into an eyeglass company with eyeglass technology over the internet, where you look inside and it prescribes your glasses. Then in big malls where you'd have kiosks, where you would have participation with the consumers and all. I invested there. Every one of them took a shitter, and we did piss away the $60 million.
Well, again, I think I took about 15 of my own money down to zero. And,
Yeah.
and I didn't set aside any money for savings because I thought, well, I'm a genius. And so I lost everything and had to start from scratch after making all this money.
So how did you bounce back? How did you get the wherewithal to come back better and stronger than ever?
It's I think a lot of people wear failure as almost like a badge of honor, but the reality is it just totally is the worst nightmare ever. Like, you have to feed your kids and you're dead broke, and everybody used to think you were smart. So now, and I bet this happened to you, Bo, like when you have the money, everybody's your friend.
Oh,
when you lose the money, nobody's your friend. So you have no more job opportunities, no opportunities for anything. And so I had to basically from scratch recreate my career. So I wrote some software to model the stock market, so I would take my emotions out of it, and I started investing very tiny in the stock market again, and had people invest with me, and I built up a little bit of a hedge fund business. And then I started writing about all of my failures and mistakes and what I was doing to try to get back, and that built up a readership. I started writing for different places. So I built kind of two careers at the same time, combined them every now and then to start another company when I had an idea, would sell that company, would lose all the money again. And this happened 4 or 5 times. I started a social media company. I started a mental health facility for teenage alcoholics. I started all sorts of things. And then finally, I would say I got a little smarter and started to say, hey, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep losing my health every single time I make money. I can't be in bad emotional relationships every time I make money. I can't give up on my creativity. I still have to keep moving forward every time I make money. And that's what saved me, is having a more positive attitude ultimately.
Yeah, and you know what I learned, James, is that when you're on top, they all flock. I'll never forget my 50th birthday was thrown at Cipriani's Wall Street. My partners threw it for me. We had everyone there, from Trump, 3 United States senators, every chairman of every major corporation, some of the Redstone, and not Bill Gates yet, but some of the rest, Warren Buffett, everybody was there. And it was like, I was like the man. I had a lot of money. I had the Bentley convertible, and then I ended up buying a Bentley GT and Ferraris, and I'm going. As soon as that left, the people left. And you know what? You call them up. There must be some sort of a hotline, Bo's in Trouble hotline.
Right.
Did you feel that too? When people knew you took a little bit of a slide?
Absolutely. And then they
And you
think,
would call them and they would say, I gotta go. And it was like a hotline that you were in trouble. Did you sense that?
yeah, because I think a lot of people, and I think I did this, I think a lot of people equate net worth with self-worth. So for people who do that, when your net worth suddenly goes down, they used to look up to you. Now it's like, James is trouble. Don't go near him.
Because you're around trying to get some resources, and the word goes out there, he's in trouble. Like, I'll never forget, I sat down with Steve Cohen, my dear friend, Steve Cohen from Sac Capital, and I met him over his house over in Greenwich, and Steve liked me and all that. And I said, you know, Steve, right now I bought a company. This is probably 2008 when everything was hitting the fans. And I said, well, you know, I'd love you to come in. I have a business, successful business, and I'd love you to come in as an investment partner. Now, this is a guy who worked at that time $12 billion, and he liked me. We were good friends, flying around private jets when everything was going good. And then all of a sudden, they do the moonwalk away. And I'll never forget a lot of these people, a lot of my wealthy friends started doing the moonwalk. I want you to find out, Carl, is there any kind of a high alert,
Like
when
a
someone's
blacklist?
like a blacklist in trouble?
I think they just smell it. Like
Yeah.
there's a little bit more desperation. Like it you know. And again, when you're back on top, because this has happened to me several times.
they
when
all
you're back
wanna be around
yeah,
you.
then they act like, oh, nothing ever bad happened. Like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah,
we should
but
do lunch.
My big thing, though, I thought I was the popular one. I have something that everyone wants. I have the original Rayo's table on Thursday night, the big table in the front. I thought all these guys, Leonardo DiCaprio, everybody loves Bo Dietl. They all want to come to dinner with him at Rayo's restaurant up in East Harlem. And all these business guys, Dick Fold, David Kamansky from Merrill Lynch, everybody was hanging with Bo, Dick Grasso and Michael Bloomberg. Everybody wanted to be Bo's friend. But then as soon as you take a couple of trip steps, then everybody, like I said, backs out.
But the key then is to not blame, like, yes, that's a betrayal. And the key is to move past that, is to just not look back and say, oh, all these people betrayed me after I did all these things for them.
Yeah.
The key is just to move forward and find the right people again to be around, and you'll find that there's a better class of people each time you go through this. And then finally, you find the right group of people, and these are the people that grow up together and really make you successful. Not necessarily monetary success, although that's part of it, but just successful as a human being.
Monetary, everybody says, oh, money isn't everything, but money's a lot.
Well-
a lot, because you have a fact of not using part of your brain to worry about finances. When it's all clear, you can think a lot clearly when you're not worried about your payroll and all that.
Yeah, I always say money doesn't solve all your problems, but it solves your money problems.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
true.
you know, a friend of mine, my late departed friend, Charlie Camella, Fedco Steel, I'll never forget when things were not going well for me. We went out to dinner and he goes, listen to me, stop it, Bo. I don't want to ever hear you complain. Listen to me. You always talk positive about everything. Nobody wants to be around a loser.
Yeah, if you're complaining about this person or, the market.
I got screwed by that guy. Oh, I was always there for that guy. I look for help and he ain't there.
Right. No, complaining is draining, and not just on you, on all the people around you. Every day, even when you're at your lowest point, you have to wake up and do the work, because no successful person ever says, man, I'm so glad complaining every day worked out as a strategy for me. Like, that never has been said.
Well, and part of my entrepreneurship, and Carlos, he came in with me over how long, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
And Carlo's like an entrepreneur type guy, and he watches what I do in the movie business. We got the big movie coming out, The Irishman, and then the next thing from that, we're getting movie roles. People die to get movie roles, and they call me up for this. Now a series with Scorsese. I mean,
Let's not forget you were in Goodfellas.
Well, that started there, but my point is, I never give up. I never give up. I'm hopping on a plane next week to Dubai on a major case. I mean, I just had knee surgery. Do I want to fly to Dubai? No, but you got to do what you got to do. Then there was another one. We invested money, $9 million. You know what keystroke encryption is?
Yeah.
There was 3 major patents for keystroke encryption. Everyone's infringing upon it. So my partner Danny Del Giorno and I from SoftWorks, we bought the patent for $9 million. This is a while ago. So my relationship with First Data, Aon, and also with Verizon. Now we're on the cusp are very possible. The great part about software, it's not labor intensive. I love software where you download the shit. If you download 5 million pieces of software and you charge $5 a month, you figure it out. And you know one thing, being in the technology space, security technology, they start with 20 times multiple on earning. So, I mean, I'm not that smart. I'm not that smart, but I know one thing. If it's not labor intensive and you just push a button and everyone downloads it, I like that kind of business.
Well, and also, like, you're involved in cybersecurity. That people don't really realize that's where the war is being fought right now.
Yeah.
And it's fought in the cyber world, the data world. Like, every day, the U.S. is being attacked by multiple countries. We're attacking multiple countries. It's all in cybersecurity. You mentioned keystroke encryption. You know, how easy is it for you as a detective and as you're on all these major cases? How easy for you to get the keystrokes of people who are unaware that their computer is being attacked?
Well,
And there was a major breach with Capital One. It was just in the news last week.
Well, it's
so
very
many people's
simple.
data
People
compromised.
don't realize, when you have you get an email from your daughters, your sons, your relatives, you don't know where that email's originating from, and then they piggyback, and they get these day loggers, and they're out there, and what they do is they piggyback into your computer system, then they lay dormant there, and they set the malware in there, and they watch. Now they watch for your account numbers when you start keystroking. They watch for your security code when you keystroke. Then they take that information and they put it onto the dark web, and they sell this information to the criminal element. It's so prevalent. We had a case not too long ago, a CEO of a major drug company, his check was being diverted into another account completely because of an erroneous email that he opened up. And then they just piggyback it in. So cybercrime, there's not a silver bullet for fixing it. You have 3-tier firewalls. I worked with RSA, probably one of the leading security companies for 10 years. You'll never stop hacking. But the keystroke encryption does one thing. If they breach in there, the way I can describe it to the people listening, it's like someone breaking into your house, but everything is welded down. You can't get the TV set. You can't remove any of the pertinent information. So it's just another tool, James?
Yeah, and the problem is a little bit is that the attackers, let's say the bad guys, are always smarter than the good guys, unfortunately, in this domain. But at least if you do keystroke encryption, you save yourself from kind of like the not so good hackers, or let's say the wife spying on the husband spying on the wife. You protect yourself against all of that.
And the account numbers are the big things, because once they gain your bank account numbers, and then some of these things you're doing, you're putting your social security in, and they're mirroring that. Then when they take that information, they get it out to the dark web and they sell it on the dark web, and people don't understand it. Oh, I was hacked. Yeah, because all your information is being accessible to people.
Yeah, and look, and the government doesn't want to stop the dark web because that's how they get all their information. So they're on there more than anybody else.
Yeah. But I mean, that's certainly an area that I think is probably in a boardroom of a major corporation. I really believe that cyber security and the cyber threat has to be the one or two most important things of a corporation, along with revenue. What do you think, Carlo?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I mean, if you look at the Huawei scandal that's going on right now, there's a major problem with a Chinese government that can control these companies that are stealing data and, stealing our technology.
What worries me too is even all the
IP theft.
all the imported stuff that we're getting. I know one thing. You look at our fighter jet, our F-35, our most advanced jet. You look at China's most advanced jet, they look like brothers. Every aspect of our military has been knocked off. All our defense companies have been knocked off. China's sitting up there with satellites. They could fire missiles down. They could take out our satellites. Just imagine not having GPS for our military. You can't fly a jet. I mean, this is the scary part about the future. Is cybersecurity. They could shut us down. They could shut our energy. Imagine if the East Coast goes dark, what they could do is they could hold us up for ransom, and what would we pay to get the lights back on?
Well, and for all we know, that's happened. I mean, it's certainly, like you mentioned, Huawei, they're supplying the 5G network to every, telecom provider in the U.S. at some point. So China is certainly going to have a backdoor into all of our data at some point, and there's just
And they
nothing we
won't
can
have
really do to
fire
stop
one-
it.
They won't have to fire one shot. They could do it cyber. It's scary. It's something that is going to touch upon us and our children for the future, because this is really scary to me, because I've been involved with it, and I said, wow, people don't even realize how we have the greatest brains in the world. We have our Microsofts, we got our Bill Gates, and all these people. We should be utilizing the public sector to advance our security technology, not just our military, not just our NSA. We should use those brains in the public sector. We built the internet, but we never put a safeguard how to protect the internet.
Well, the internet was never made with security in mind. Like when they first sent messages on the internet in 1972, these were just academics sending messages.
Yeah.
They didn't care if someone hacked into their email. They weren't saying anything. So they really built it to be as open as possible, which creates the opportunity for billions of ways to attack it. And that's what we all live on now. Let me ask you a question. When you're on a case and you've done all the basic background work and you've
Yeah.
even like followed the person for a while, at what point do you say to yourself, you know what, I need to let loose my cyber guys to figure this case out?
Well, I've been in business 34 years in the private investigating side. There's a fine line there, and
Because there's a regulatory line.
yeah, if you cross that, not even regulatory, criminal line.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand something. The capabilities are all present that we could utilize that thing. But I kind of been around for 34 years because of that reason. And we investigate some of the highest profile cases. The thing that comes to play is even with the Roger Ailes thing. I mean, with this phony movie that this Gabriel Sherman put out about the loudest voice in the room or whatever, and he mentions it, and it's depicted in the movie of me sitting in a room with Roger Ailes about me doing dirty deals, black ops, tapping phones and computers. Never happened. Never happened. My firm is a firm that's been around. It's a responsible firm. It's a firm that gets hired by law firms to do litigation support, defense. Everyone has a right to defense. If you had an allegation against you, you should have a right to defense. That's what we do. But that's not the way I'm depicted in this loudest voice in the room. And I called Gabriel Sherman. I said, Gabriel, you're putting in the New York Times when I was running for mayor that I was following you and your wife for Roger Ailes. I'm telling you, if I did, you could kiss my ass. I'll tell you right out, I never did follow you or your wife. Maybe her boyfriend was following you because I wasn't. And I got really mad. I said I was going to file some sort of legal challenge against him. And he just puts it in there anyway. And then all of a sudden, Black Ops. And like I'm banned from the what's the name of the family from Fox?
Murdochs.
The two Murdoch boys there. They banned me in their mind, in their little minds. Oh, Bo had to be involved with Roger. Never, ever was I involved with Roger in any of these things that they made allegations. Then when I ran for mayor, they go, Bo hates women. That's why I was trying to find dirt on women. No, how about try to find the truth to defend somebody? And I mean, it hurts me that I'm categorized in that way. And it's still, if you Google it, you still see that garbage.
The problem is part of what you do is you stand out because you're good at what you do. You have this rough edge to you, and
But
people like that.
ethically, I don't cross the line.
Right, but when you stick out, you're going to get hammered, and that's what's going to happen over and over. The more you stick out.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I ran for mayor, it was like the emperor's clothes came off, because a perfect example is I had 3 houses on Long Island. I had an apartment in the city. 2006, I was out of the city to 188 days. So I was there. It was $125,000 to 4% taxes, city taxes. And I said I wasn't in the city. I fought it for 12 years. Then when I decided I'm going to run for mayor, I said I better get rid of this tax thing. So I called up the tax New York State. I said, here's a $250,000. I'll pay you $25,000 a month offering compromise to get it off. Okay. I pick up the paper on Easter Sunday, front page, Bo Owes, O-W-E-S. And my picture's on there like I got indicted. My daughter calls me, Dad, you get arrested? And if they never gave the facts, never was there any kind, even the person from the New York State taxes, Bo, we're sorry about this. I said, well, how does this get released like this? Where is my comeback from a front page of the Daily News that I'm a deadbeat like Al Sharpton? I'm not a deadbeat. My taxes are paid, and that's it. But my problem is whenever you're high profile, they're gonna gun for you.
Yeah, they won't like you because most people, I would say, greater than 90%,
Yeah.
are small and want to bring everybody up who's up down.
That's right, and everyone's jealous, and the whole thing, even with these movies that I'm very fortunate to be involved. A lot of people are jealous. Well, how come Bo got that movie part? How come he's this, that? Hey, it's out there for everybody. You just got to hard work. You got to work hard.
No, that's the thing. That's why if you ignore the noise, what the signal is really you staying physically healthy, you staying emotionally healthy in your own relationships and partnerships and so on, you being creative. Like there's a reason why you're involved in so many different projects. You're creatively thinking of these things, and you having some kind of, I don't want to use the word spiritual, but some kind of sense that you can't control the things you can't control. And moving forward each day with that outlook really is how you bounce back to your earlier question, Carlo. Like you have to just move forward, do the work. Everyone else who's complaining, everyone who's just jealous, they just get left behind, even though it's annoying as hell.
This choose yourself philosophy, what is that all about?
So it's basically the idea of what we've been talking about. Everyone's always going to be a gatekeeper. Let's say you, Bo Dietl, you want to write a book, and everyone's nervous. No, we're not going to publish that book. Okay, I'm going to choose myself. I'm going to write the book anyway, and I'm going to upload it to Amazon. I'm going to work out my own deals. I'm going to publish that book. Let's say you wanted to make a movie. No one wants to make your movie. The 4 studios, whatever, don't want to make your movie. No problem. I'm going to film the movie. I'm going to put it on YouTube. I'm going to do it as cheap as possible.
Just
Boom,
keep
it's on
going.
YouTube. Just keep going. Just keep doing things. Do lots of things. Take care of yourself so you have the energy to do things, and be creative every day so you have things to do.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because you mentioned before the difference between self-worth and net worth. And it seems like you have a very holistic philosophy on, being successful as well as happy. So how did you come to, get this? You mentioned having good relationships, doing things that inspire you and make you creatively happy. So how did you arrive at
Sure.
that?
Well, like Bo was just mentioning, he's at Rayo's restaurant. You mentioned Dick Grasco, David Kaminsky, the Lehman Brothers guy. I forgot his name.
Dick Fold.
Yeah, Dick Fold. Okay, were those guys successful? Yeah, they had hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars. Would we consider them successes now? No, they brought on the financial crisis. So to some extent, I'm not Dick Grasso, but the maybe Dick Fold was involved, and who knows. But success is, you certainly wouldn't be doing a podcast if all you were thinking about was financial success. You also have other interests. You have a vision of the world and how it should be. And so you have a podcast that expresses that vision. This is a way of choosing yourself rather than letting the newspapers and the politicians dictate the vision to you, which happens to 99% of the population. You have your own vision, and now you have a platform, this podcast and other places, for getting that vision out there. So part of success is how you define success. It's again a way of choosing yourself. Sure, money's important. I need some money to take care of things, but I also want to be relevant. So I'm going to have a podcast, or I'm going to write a book, or I'm going to write articles, or I'm going to make a movie. So people could see what I believe in and why that I think that could help the world. So that's another way to measure success. Certainly, success in a family is important, and however else you define success. There's many ways to define it, but. And I'm not saying money's not important at all. Money's really important, but it's also bad to think money is the only thing that's important. That's the downfall of so many people, including myself, time after time, until I stopped doing that. Yeah. And again, choosing yourself is to say, these 5 things are important to me. These are the skills I need to get good at those 5 things. This is how I need to live my life to get better. And I certainly wouldn't own a comedy club in New York City if I wanted to make $1 billion, or I wouldn't have a podcast. Those things kind of get in the way of making a lot of money because they take time and resources, but you also do the things you enjoy and love.
Like even with the acting stuff. But, as far as my thing is, I love to look at a successful person and kind of like a sponge, take all that out and learn from that, because they made a lot of mistakes. And when learning from someone who made mistakes, maybe you don't have to go and make those mistakes. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's sort of like when you learn from people who make mistakes and when you learn from people who are lazy, those are the most valuable lessons. Because laziness also, if they're going to be successful and lazy, that's a hard skill. You have to learn how to do things quickly and correctly while still having time to watch Game of Thrones at night or whatever it is you're lazy with. So and mistakes, you learn, okay, this is what worked for me when I was successful. This was what didn't work when I was failing. So you start to learn, okay, I got to stop doing these things that always cause me to fail. If I don't know anybody but most people are ashamed, so they don't admit of the mistakes they make, so it's hard to learn from them. I'm always very outgoing in my writing, in my art. That these are the mistakes I've made. This is how I want to express it. People might hate me because I'm being honest about it, but I want people to learn, and I have fun doing it that way. I have fun expressing myself.
So you have to have a real honest self-awareness in order to, recognize those mistakes in order to move forward.
Yeah, every day, because it's not like you correct all the mistakes once and then everything's a bright and sunny future afterwards. It's like every day you learn a little bit. Every day someone, oh, why is that guy saying this about me? And you have to check yourself.
You have to learn too. I mean, I have social networks. This Facebook, Twitters, and Instagram. I don't do a damn thing. Carlo is me, because I'll be honest with you, I just think that this thing is the ruination of time that you could spend on very positive things. My children, everyone is now controlled by these iPhones, and the waste of time on these iPhones is so enormous. You're taking away from productivity. God knows in a regular office, if you have 100 people working, how many hours of garbage are being wasted on these iPhones.
I mean, think about it. The average person in the U.S. spends 3 hours a day on social media.
Not I.
And I agree, not me as well. After a year, though, that's 1,000 hours. 20 years, that's 20,000 hours. There's that whole.
We could have wrote a couple of books.
You could write. You could master the violin and become a professional tennis player in the 20,000 hours. So there's so much you're giving up.
And why would you want to read something negative? Because jealous people on it, I'm sure they're saying nasty things about me all the time. Why would I want to use a little bit of my brain to worry about? When I first started on the Twitter thing, I was answering people back. And
getting
I said,
angry.
What are you getting
to
angry
strangers?
at? And I said to myself, what am I doing? I don't even want to see it. So I tell Carlo, if it's business related, let me know. You monitor all these social medias, and if it's something important, you let me know. But I can't be bothered with that. And I tell you the truth, I hate this cell phone. I hate social media. All it is a platform for people to hide behind.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm not sure what social media gains someone. So it's not like, oh, you're suddenly become famous because everybody likes you on Twitter. Like, you have to actually do things in the real world to have an impact.
You're like these Kardashians. Who cares about Kim Kardashian, what she likes and all? I mean, they've taken this thing to the utmost. 50 million viewers. I mean, where is people's lives to care about Kim Kardashian if she sucked her stomach in and waist got smaller? I mean, it aggravates me so much that people put so much energy into this garbage.
Yeah, and that's really the key to everything is energy. Where you only have, when you wake up in the day, you only have so much energy. Right. By the end of the day, that's why we're tired. We're depleted of energy. So it's where you spend that energy is your most valuable investment. And everything kind of follows from that. If you invest that energy well, everything follows from that. Those are the investments that pay off, that compound, that create success.
Because, like, if I was following all these social media and someone said something negative and I'm going back and forth, that's going to take away from anything positive that I could think about. And I'm going to be thinking about retaliation and all this. I got to get back at that person. Oh, that person said this about me. You know what? I don't want to know. And you want to know, anybody listening out there? Sorry, I don't look at my social media. Carlo looks at it. You want to get a message to me? That's fine.
Carlo, how many negative messages he gets a day?
Not really too many. There's a lot of positive. I always let him know the positive ones, but not too many haters.
What do you do with the haters? You just like
Just mute them.
Mute
Just
'em.
don't even answer.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's just something that I see my own daughter now. She got divorced and she's dating online, and all these losers are online and they're looking for one thing. And I mean, the Tinders and all these things, and it's just so much of energy that's wasted. And then you go on a date, and then the guy turns out to be a zero, and all they're doing is looking to see what they could get out of you. It's just, I just think people should focus more on success, and success doesn't come easy. Success is hard work. If you're a person who is complacent, that's the death of success.
I agree. Every day it's getting up and figuring out how to be a little bit better than the day before in terms of how you spend your energy, how you what you're creative about, how you're helping others. Because ultimately, when you create value for others, that creates success for other people, which ripples back to you.
Yeah, but also too, like Carlo's in with me. He was in the real estate business before, but now he's like in a very pivotal thing because he's learning from me what's going on. I mean, to take that experience and gain off of that for your future, Carlo, that's what I'm saying is you gain. You don't make a move right away. You gain it more and more. See wherever I fell down in, that you don't have to cross that river. And then taking that, in the business we're in, you understand better than I do right now with the advent of the weowninvestigations.com. We're about
That's
to
great.
go online with people powered by Bo Dietl. They all know me. I have a brand. Now we're going to do backgrounds like $99.99, simple backgrounds. And if you want to go deeper, you click on, you come back. It's a great thing because I should use that. And Carlo developed this. And this is something that you develop these things and you can make these things happen, and great revenue could come out of this all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at how much money. Everybody wants to do background checks on people they meet. So there's all these like websites. Oh, for just $9.99, you can
Yeah.
get
get nothing.
their court records or whatever. But then they start charging you $29 a month. You don't realize it till later. And you're right, they don't even give you anything
They
accurate.
don't even give you and what part of the thing when we developed this, we let them know exactly what we could do. Anybody tells you could do a 50-state criminal background on somebody for $99.99, impossible. And we're not going to advertise. We're going to advertise exactly what we could give you. If you want to go further, you could communicate with one of our detectives, and we'll give you a menu of what it will cost you. But to sell something that you're not giving them the product, that's a wrong thing to do.
Yeah, no, and that's a great domain name. Domain names are still valuable.
My daughter Jacqueline bought it 25 years ago for $25,000, investigations.com. And I just said, you know what? There's so many of these search things on it, but when people recognize powered by Bo Dietl, well, that's that idiot detective. I'd rather him do it. He has a name, he has a brand, rather than XYZ Investigations, right?
Yeah, that's smart.
So
34 years
that's
of
what
success.
Carlo has been developing. When are we kicking it off, Carlo?
It'll be live in a couple, maybe 2 months.
I mean, this was your baby, and I mean, this was a great foresight. So he's learning as he's here, learning how to utilize a brand and getting that brand out there.
Well, and what I'm also seeing is, Carlo, you were working in real estate. Now you're working with Bo. You brought your creativity in. You spent energy on figuring out how to help Bo, and now you're sitting here on this podcast with him. You built up your success by helping someone who came before you, and I think that's a valuable lesson for
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yeah, I mean, look at,
And eventually, he's going to pass you.
I know, and you know what? And I would be happy to pass the baton on and make the business go higher. Then I recognize to see how the value of the business came up, and say now it's time for Uncle Bo to retire and pass the baton around. you know?
That's a valuable skill too, because I have found so many times that mentors, they're happy to mentor, but once the mentee starts to succeed, boom, the mentor, the animal comes out.
Well, it's not the animal come out. It's the dependency that you have on somebody. Where you're learning as you're going along. You can't learn everything in a couple of years, but all those mistakes that I made in the last 34 years in business, you don't have to make those mistakes. You could see where I made those mistakes. You step right over it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for me, that's why I wrote the book, Choose Yourself. That's why I do my podcast, is to explore my own mistakes and then the mistakes of others and what lessons can be learned, because it's so incredibly important. People don't want to admit their mistakes. They want to blame. They want to complain. They don't take ownership of what happened. You always need to take ownership of what you did, because I'm certainly, every single time I've lost money, every single time I've lost a relationship or a business didn't do so well, I ask myself first, what did I do wrong? Because and I always find the answers. But if you don't ask, you won't find the answers.
So comedy club now. You're a comedian also. You know, I go back with Ricky Newman, Catch a Rising Star.
Yeah.
I used to drink in that joint with a guy named Robin Williams. And in the 1970s, Pat Benatar started there, remember her?
Jerry Seinfeld started there?
Yeah, but Robin Williams and I were really good friends, and I think the funniest comedian of all time has got to, Robin Williams, got to be in the top 5.
Yeah,
of all
absolutely.
times. So how did you get into? I'm looking at you. I'm
I look
waiting
funny.
to hear. No, your hair looks funny. You got too much hair. That's one thing. But how do you become a comedian now?
Well, I think
Because you're a pretty serious guy.
Yeah, but you have to find. I think the truth is in finding the absurdity in everything. So most things in the world are pretty absurd when you look at it.
So what kind of comedy, when you do a skit, you still do it now?
Oh yeah, I do. I'll go on stage 5 nights this week.
Well, let's give us a little bit of. I'd love the audience to listen. Give us.
Well, I'm not going to do a joke, but I'll tell you the types of things I might look at. So, for instance, I have 5 kids. Some my kids, some stepkids. With kids, there's always stories. Kids are always worried about things they shouldn't be worried about, and it's always funny. I've been married a couple times. There's always humor in that. But even in the news, like we've seen all these horrible mass shootings in the past week, and it is horrible. And then the El Paso police captain says, "Boy, El Paso is the last place I would expect a shooting like this to occur." And to me, it's horrible. The shooting's horrible. But I'm thinking to myself, what he says, really? El Paso's the last place you would think? Because it's kind of in my top 10 of cities.
It's kind of on a border. It's a border town where you have
12,000 people have unconcealed gun permits in El Paso. Only 4,000 people in New York City, which has 12 times the population, have gun permits. So it's really not the last place you would consider. So there's something funny there, or something absurd, I should say. So that means there's humor in there somewhere. And finding the absurd kind of helps you be honest about what's really happening in the world. It trains you to be honest about what's happening in the world.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. Even with the advent of I call it the new extortion value, is with the MeToo movement. All started out on a very positive note. I'm very supportive of getting these creeps and shutting them down. But now all of a sudden, I just got a case the other day. 3 years ago, guy was dating a gal in an office in a company, and it was consensual. All of a sudden, he had to break up. He was married, and next thing is he's getting sued for $multi-million because she wasn't happy anymore, and it's extortion against the corporation. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to settle. It was a consensual relationship, 2 consensual adults having a relationship. But because that person was a boss, a higher level in that company, now all of a sudden you have these cases. Where does it stop?
Right, and you make a great point. Like, Me Too started with the greatest of values. Like, okay, women need to be listened to. Women need a platform where they're respected, and we need to discuss equality in all the ways where it doesn't exist. But then it turns into basically a financial strategy for so many women. So it becomes confused.
Maximus.
Right, so when the actual secretary in Indiana is being sexually harassed, she no longer has the voice because everyone in Hollywood has, made a career or tens of millions off of, and I shouldn't say every woman, but, there's that group that has used this as a career strategy when actual women who don't have the same platform are being sexually harassed and can't speak about it.
Right, like even with Fox. I mean, with Fox News, I was there 12 years, and then you get them coming out of the woodwork, making up stories just to get money. And there was just, and I'll say her name because she named me in an affidavit, Tarantino's, whatever her name is, and she said I bugged her phones and her computer. All lies. And they offered her $1 million. She wouldn't take it. And then the case fell out from under and she got nothing. My point is, there's real, and then all of a sudden what's horrible is the real victim, the real female victim who is being sexually harassed is not going to have as much strength as the ones that are making these things up. Look at Moonves. Les Moonves, I go back 1985. Now there was allegations that came out that, well, we know his wife was a secretary there. And I mean, things that occurred in 1985 are different. It's a different world out there right now. People were dating people in the office, married people were dating each other. It was an acceptable thing. Now, if you're a boss, you can't consensually date anybody. Simple and simple.
Well, you can't date anybody 40 years ago. Like they get you. You could have been 16 in the 1970s, and somebody said, male or female, somebody says, "Oh, you shoved them," when they said, yes or no or whatever.
Yeah.
And now 2019, like 40 years later, he can't run for Congress. He can't.
We saw what happened with this guy for the United States Supreme Court. I mean, the woman couldn't even remember if he was there or not, and it happened 35 years ago, and you forced yourself on me, you held me down and kissed me or something. I mean, we have to be real about some of the things. When I was a young man in my 20s, who remembers what I did? If I became the mayor of New York City, that might have come out that, when I was 22 years old, I forced myself on some gal that said no, and I said, yeah. I don't even remember, but this is what's in play now. Your whole life is now being retried.
But again, this speaks to what could be positive in a movement. People should always, again, that hashtag MeToo meant something. It's listen to me too. I have a voice. And that's an important message to get out. And it's so hard for people to stay on track with a good movement, with a good positive message. And that's really what I get out of it, is that this was a powerful enough movement to change lives, and then it kind of shifted directions, so everyone became a guilty until proven innocent sort of person.
One of the things that we developed, and Carlo was involved with developing with me, is we developed a independent platform. You have HR, but people don't want to report to HR because they feel as though the HR people know the person that's doing the harassment. So we put together an independent platform where they advertise from the CEO, the general counsel, and the HR. There's another avenue. If you're a victim of discrimination, sexual harassment, or any kind of problems in the corporation, you can report it to a third party. Then we send our investigators. Title VII, I actually hired the attorney from the EEOC. Charles Diamond was the attorney, 10 years senior investigator. So what we do is we investigate the thing as far as the allegation. And then what we do is we go to HR, we tell them we're going to talk to the supervisor, and there's another avenue for people to report it. So they can't say, I said to the head of the EEOC, what area can we help to minimize a corporate's exposure? He said, very simple. If there was another place to report other than HR, it would diminish, because now you have another avenue to report. Well, why didn't you report it to HR? Because he knew. But why didn't you report it to the third party independent investigators that we have in place? So it's another avenue for people to report.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And just speaking of this, and then looking at the absurdity, I don't know, you're not on social media. Maybe you saw somewhere Rosanna Arquette, the actress, said on Twitter, I'm disgusted with myself because I'm white and privileged.
Yesterday. That was so crazy.
Right. So there's something funny in that, it looks like Caitlyn Jenner. He played the long game. He was also white and privileged. He switched over at the correct moment, played the long game, won the game. No, it doesn't have to complain like Rosanna Arquette. So there's absurdity.
So what was the thing with Rosanna Arquette?
She said that she's disgusted with herself that she was born white and privileged.
Really? Well, her brother is my co-star in that movie.
Mobtown.
Yeah. David, he's a wrestler too. A lot of people, you take your lives. Look, was I 100% right in everything I did, even in my relationships as a husband, as a father? I was never around. You have your own peaks and valleys, like you did also.
Sure.
You can't judge your whole work on one or two mistakes that you made in your life. Your whole work is just one broad painting, and that's the way it should be in your life. You have ups and downs. I think that's what makes life interesting, no?
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't want the downs, you don't like them. You try to minimize those valleys and make them as small as possible, but that is part of becoming an adult. It's part of growing. It's part of what you don't raise your kids to be polite kids. You raise your kids to be good adults. And to be a good adult, you have to be able to handle those valleys.
You know,
James, real quick, we were talking about comedy, and we made some absurd observations on some things. What do you think of the current climate in comedy, where people get outraged if people make jokes about certain things that are off limits and things like that? As a comedy club owner,
I think, well, it's different as a comedian and as an owner. So an owner cares about the audience a little bit more than the art form, for better or for worse. But in terms of a comedian, yeah, you can't make jokes. There are third rail topics that you cannot make any jokes about
Anymore.
And I think that's unfortunate, because
It is.
we have that the comedy sort of. And the comedy is the only place where the truth is really allowed to come out. You're in a comedy club. So, let's say someone does something bad in their lives, horrible. They commit a crime. They're a murderer. They're a rapist. They do all these things. They're not going to go immediately to a comedy club and joke about it. The comedy club is the safe place where somebody could talk about these issues, because again, a racist, a rapist, a murderer is not going to go from being a racist to going on a comedy club and making jokes about it. It's a different environment.
I know it. It's like Andrew Dice Clay's a good friend of mine, and we're going to get him on our podcast. And Dice is very risque when he does his stuff. I want to slip underneath the chair some of the things he says about women. But I mean, that's Andrew Dice Clay. Don't go see him. Now, as far as there was a comedian on this morning with Rosanna Scotto on Channel 5. He's a black comedian. He was mentioned about, he doesn't do politics. He said if there's a guy sitting there with a Make America Great hat on, he welcomes everybody. He stays away from the politics because people are so incensed. You walk around with a MAGA hat, somebody's going to punch you in the face. You have a Trump sticker on your back bumper, they're going to break your window. It's gone so crazy. I mean, whatever, if I liked President Obama or not, I'd never knock people for loving President Obama. He was my president too, but it's gone so crazy to the other side, and I just can't understand. If you say something, right away, people want to hang you.
Well, and there's absurdity there too. Like, think about someone who was living in Harlem, over the past 15, 20 years. They've seen a lot of changes, but for themselves personally, most people, their lives don't really change. It doesn't matter who's president. It doesn't matter what the politics are. It doesn't matter what you think about the economy. Most people's lives don't change because of who the president is or because of what economic policy we decide to do about the environment. Someone in Harlem needs different kinds of help. Sometimes they need to help themselves. Sometimes they need, very, very, very rarely do they need help from the system.
We've come a long way in my lifetime from the 1950s to now, and even through the 60s with the civil rights movement. And in reality, the ethnicity has really developed. Now, is family structure, family value, education that young African Americans didn't have. Now they have great opportunities, and I love to see it. Everyone's equal. I don't look at a person as a black person, Asian person. I look at a person as a person, and how you treat a person is the way they treat you, back and forth. And I'm glad that all these guards have been taken down. I want everyone to be interactive with each other and love each other in the sense that, hey, look, did you have some hard times? I didn't have any slaves, so don't blame me. Don't try to get reparations out of me because of slaves 100 years ago. I didn't do it. I was
going to ask you for some reparations later. I did 23andMe. I'm 4% African American.
I'm 3% African American.
Well, we're both online at the window then. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to reject us? Carlo is a little bit more ethnic name.
The point is, everyone's using that crush to advance themselves for something at 100 years. Next, they're going to take George Washington off the dollar bill. I mean, look at, where do we stop it? Where do we really stop the travesties of what happened in this country with our Civil War, with brothers fighting brothers and cousins fighting cousins? That was a horrible time in our life, but we went through so we don't have to go back there. And right now, The divisions in this country are lining up now. If Trump gets reelected, there's going to be anger. If he doesn't get reelected, if someone else, there's so much division here. And we need someone to bring us together, that bring us all together and stop the friction amongst people.
Yeah, and I always
scary.
ask people, how has your life specifically changed since 2008, since 2016? Usually the changes they say have nothing to do with politics, and yet everyone's so furious. The only thing that might have changed is that they're more angry now than they were in 2008 for no reason.
Used to be my lefty friends, right? The liberals were the very passive. Now they're the aggressive, and the conservatives now have become the passive, and it's just a reversal. And then with the Antifa and all this, and I was there in Washington during the inauguration. Black masks on, black battle things, shields, and they were beating people up. And these are supposed to be the liberal loving people, flower people. Now they become the violent people. It's like a reversal of a role.
Yeah,
Have you
and the
noticed
news
that?
and the news doesn't report it. Like even this Antifa stuff, the journalist that got beaten up, they blame him. And how come the news is upside down? Like it's insane. I don't even read the news. Just like social media, I think the news is worse than social media in general.
I got my ex's father is a big Fox News guy, and he wants to wear a Magna hat around. He's from Florida. I says, Pop, you can't wear it around. Somebody's going to punch you in the face. I mean, just think of what I'm just saying right now. Because you want to wear a hat because you believe in something, you have to be assaulted for that? And that's something that's only getting worse and worse, Carlo?
It is. It's good, through the election, it's probably going to get even more riled up, but.
Yeah, and it's just something that, well, let's go off topic a little bit because there was something about cryptocurrency. I'm sorry to go off topic. We're all over the place, but it's very interesting for a listening
It's
audience.
good to be all over the place.
Yeah, cryptocurrency, what's your feelings on it?
I do think having, every few thousand years, say, or a few hundred years, a new form of money comes and replaces the old form because there's too many problems. Like gold replaced barter because it's very simple to just transfer everything into gold and then make a transaction. Like I can't trade shoes for rice because what if you only have enough rice for one shoe? It doesn't make sense. So it's better to make everything gold and do it that way. Then paper currency came along because what are you going to do? Carry all these bags of gold around when you make a move? Like you can't transport gold around. So paper currency comes around, and that went through its various forms like fiat currency and so on. Now Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies solve a lot of the problems of paper currency. Like there's no Federal Reserve that decides without your permission whether to print another $1 trillion or not. You can't.
There's only so much of it. Now, when I was in...
Right, there's limited supply. With paper currency, they could say, here's a button, I'm going to press it. Oh, another $1 trillion just printed.
I was at the SALT conference. That's a hedge
Scaramucci.
fund with Anthony. I've been going there since '09. I was original keynote speaker back in '09. So I ran into these guys, and it was a thing the size of a wallet where they had diamonds inside there. Diamonds in a plexiglass thing was $100,000 value of diamonds. So in other words, if you bought the currency, it was like a cryptocurrency, but it was backed by real diamonds of quality that were in there. I mean, that's interesting in a sense.
It's interesting, but then you look at the diamond market, there is no exchange for diamonds, and De Beers arguably has created a monopoly situation, so it's hard to know the real value of a diamond. Whereas cryptocurrencies, there's only supply and demand. There's no Federal Reserve, there's no... If you're in China and I want to send you some money, I have to go through 7 different banks, all with fees. There might be human error all along the way. Every government agency on both sides can see what I'm doing. Cryptocurrency solves all of those problems. And so I do think in some form or other, we're seeing money evolve, just like every industry evolves.
Where's your safeguards?
Well, it depends. Like the fact that there's a limited supply. It's possible to hack a brokerage that's holding onto your cryptocurrency, but you can't actually hack the cryptocurrency itself. So what I do with mine is I'll keep it in a safety deposit box, or I'll do other things with it. So I'm not relying on any security that I don't trust. So with Bitcoin and with other cryptocurrencies, not everyone, but with most of them, there are a lot of safeguards to prevent kind of manipulation or to prevent hacking or to prevent stealing or to prevent forging. With U.S. currency, there isn't those safeguards. With paper currency, there isn't. People hack banks all the time, like you mentioned. People take extra fees. The central bank of any country could print trillions of dollars, and then there's massive inflation. Citizens don't have any control over that, but with cryptocurrencies, you usually do have some control over that.
So you're, James, you're endorsing cryptocurrency.
In general, not every cryptocurrency, but I like Bitcoin, and I like the evolution of money. I think is happening right now as we speak.
Do you think that speculation in cryptocurrency is preventing it from being an actual currency?
Yeah, I think speculation of anything is what happens. Is this is like the history of financial innovation. There's an amazing thing that happens. Some financial innovation, like the .com IPOs or mortgage-backed securities, or in this case, crypto. So first there's the financial innovation. People do well with it, but then people get speculative. Then there's some crime. Regulators have to get involved. There's a boom, there's a bust. And then on the other side of that, then you see how this industry really grows. So we're still getting to the other side of crypto where we'll see how the industry really grows. In 2001, everyone thought, okay, that's it for the internet. It was a fraud. Now, trillions and trillions of dollars later, we all see the internet was for real. Real estate, it's not like real estate died forever. So housing prices are back now. The mortgage-backed securities were a good thing. Now real estate's back. It was just abused by, had to be regulated. Crypto, there's too much speculation. Now it's died down. Now the price is going back up. It's gone from 3,500 back to 12,000 in the past few months. So we're seeing it kind of evolve into a real industry.
Wow. Well, James, we really were all over the board, huh, Carlo?
Yeah, and you guys, you coming on my show when investigations.com comes out, or when the Irishman comes out?
Certainly, we'll come on your show. And,
excellent.
I really want to thank you so much. Well, we do something every week. At the end, we do Punk of the Week. Now, Punk of the Week could be one thing or person, an issue. What is bothering you this week, James?
I would say, that's a good question. I would say I'm the punk of the week for me, because I found myself, again, thinking to myself, why did somebody say this bad thing about me? When I know better not to obsess on that, I found myself thinking that.
You were looking at the social media, right?
I was looking at social media, and I need to take ownership of my own agony over it. And that's how I move past it.
That's why I don't look at that crap.
I agree with you.
What about you, Carlo? What's your punk of the week?
I have a punk of the week. I won't say his name, but he's an electrician that was supposed to come to my house and do some work, and he never showed up. He left me all day hanging.
Well, my punk of the week was watching Mayor Big Bird de Blasio last night on my friend's show, Sean Hannity, and Sean had him where he wanted him. He didn't throw any knockout punches. He didn't hit him with the $900 million that his wife used for mental health that she doesn't know how to explain, went to nonprofits. She didn't hit him with the renewable schools for $800 million that he pissed away, the housing debacle in New York City, and then with the Rikers Island removal, not fixing the problem, just moving the problem. There were so many issues Sean could have knocked him out with. I'm very disappointed with I sent them information early in the week. I was with Sean on Sunday, and I said, do him, man. This guy's right. But all he would do was he asked him a question, and he would not answer the question. You just got that face that I'd like to punch. And that's not a threat. That's something that I feel. I wouldn't do it, but I feel like I just want to clock him once, and I'll take the misdemeanor arrest for that. But
that's all it is? It's a misdemeanor?
Well, as long as I don't break his jaw, then it's a felony. So
all right.
I don't know.
You gotta hold yourself back a little.
Oh, give him a half a shot.
Were you ever a boxer? You have a build of a boxer?
I've fought all kinds of fights. I'm best in street fighting, but it's just a way of growing up. My whole life, I was a little guy. If I didn't fight, I'd get my ass kicked. So I learned how to fight pretty well. And that was my life. But how could people find you, James?
If they just Google James Altucher, they'll see all sorts of ways. ALTUCHER. But I have a podcast. I have books. I have all sorts of things going on. But they can find me right here on your show, the Bo Deedle. What was it? One tough
podcast.
One tough podcast. They can find me here.
Yeah, great. Go ahead,
All right,
Carl.
James, thank you very much for being here. Very, very interesting conversation. You could subscribe to our show, give us a great rating, tell your friends, follow us on social media. We're at One Tough Podcast on Twitter. Bo is at Bo Deedle on Twitter and at The Real Bo Deedle on Instagram. You could find me. I'm CJ Coutinho on all platforms. We appreciate our fans. You can send us any emails, all your questions, comments, concerns, onetoughpodcast@gmail.com. We got a great month lined up as far as guests go, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.